But thank you all so much for coming today. My name is Sarah Pierce. I am the Housing and Energy Affordability Program Coordinator at the Metropolitan Housing Coalition. And I have guest Kentuckians for Energy Democracy, the coalition organizer, Kara Cooper, here with me today to talk about who the Public Service Commission is and how you can get involved at the Public Service Commission. If you all have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat, and then we will also have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So just a little bit about the Metropolitan Housing Coalition. We're a coalition of more than 300 individual and organizational members who engage on research-based advocacy for fair, accessible, and affordable housing in Louisville. And we do this through research, data, and outreach. About a year ago now, almost a year, in April of 2024, MHC launched their housing and energy affordability program called Every Home. And Every Home is dedicated to bridging the gap between housing affordability and energy affordability through education and outreach, like our webinar here today. And then
Hey
Kara.
everybody,
Yep.
I'm Kara. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Lexington and I coordinate Kentuckians for Energy Democracy. K4ED is a statewide coalition working at the intersection of energy affordability, utility accountability, and the transition to renewables. And we're really working to make sure that the voice of Kentuckians are a part of decision making when it comes to our energy future. I think that's all I got.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So, with a raise your hands, or maybe if you could put it in the chat, who knows who the Public Service Commission is? And it's okay if you don't, you're going to be learning a lot more about them today. See a few hands. Yeah. So the Public Service Commission governs more than 1,000 utility providers and distributors in the state, including big providers that we know of, such as LG&E and KU. It is a three-member administrative body, so we have three commissioners, and their mission is to foster the provision of safe and reliable services at a reasonable price to customers, while also providing financial stability for utilities by setting fair and just rates. So the Public Service Commission is looking at cases such as bill rate increases and reductions, expansion or reduction of utility service boundaries, demand side management, which is those energy efficiency programs that are going to save you money on your energy bill, integrated resource plans, which we will be talking a little bit about later, which is a plan that the utility comes up with for the next 15 years on how they're going to keep rates affordable, as well as something called a CPCN, or essentially construction or demolition of generation plants. The Metropolitan Housing Coalition is a joint intervener on a lot of the LG&E and KU cases, because that is the area that we are in, is LG&E. And we do this on behalf of low and fixed income families. And K4ED works with us, since we are a K4ED member, to provide public comment, education, and advocacy around many cases. So what does a case look like? Each case looks a little bit different. Cases tend to include that initial filing of what the utility is requesting of the PSC. This could be a raise in rates. It could be a certificate of public need for wanting to create a new gas plant. And once that initial filing is included, there is going to be notices of joint intervention. So whether that be Metropolitan Housing Coalition, the Sierra Club, different organizations can intervene on these cases on behalf of other folks, such as people who are low income, or if they are supporting natural lands, like the Sierra Club does a lot. And once that notice of joint intervention is in, there's a lot of data requests that go back and forth between the joint interveners and the utility. So as joint interveners, MHC can ask questions of the utility and they send us back their answers. And it kind of goes back and forth until a hearing is set. And once a hearing is set, the utility is going to plead their case. And they're subject to questions from the Public Service Commission, from those commissioners and the joint interveners. After that, some additional data requests are included, and then a final order is typically given by the Public Service Commission.
Hey Sarah, can I
Yeah.
pop in just for a second on that last slide? I just wanted to say, like, utilities tend to bring cases to the Public Service Commission. They're usually the ones who initiate a case. And when you said, what does a case look like? My first thought was like wonky and technical, right? That's what cases look like a lot of times because they're written by utilities, and the utilities are asking for permission for something from the Public Service Commission. And there's two ways that we can get our voices heard in a case. One is through public comment, which we'll talk about more later, and then one is through this joint intervention or this intervention piece, which means that like stakeholders, folks who represent stakeholders, along with a lawyer, can actually go head to head with a utility in terms of like you were saying, like making data requests, asking questions of the utilities, bringing new information and evidence to the Public Service Commission, and that intervention piece is so critical because otherwise the utilities are the only ones who are giving information to the Public Service Commission, and the PSC has to make their decisions based on the evidence that's entered into each individual case. And so, like the role that MHC has been playing, along with other members of K4ED in doing this intervention, has been so key. It's really been a game changer in terms of the decisions we're able to get out of the Public Service Commission.
Mhm. Yes, and that's why we intervene on behalf of MHC, at least intervenes on behalf of low and fixed income folks, which we'll talk a little bit about more in the next couple of slides. But something that I wanted to highlight is just a couple of statements that MHC in particular feels that states and utilities need to ensure so that low income customer bills are affordable. So the first thing that we need is for utilities to include an affordability component in all Public Service Commission cases. Utilities should keep affordability at the forefront of all of their cases and everything that they are asking for the Public Service Commission, as the ratepayers are the ones who are paying all of the bills. Two, we need data. This data, such as usage, disconnections, reconnection fees, all of this data would show us which low-income communities are the most energy burdened, and that can help us create programs and different programs that essentially can help those communities save money. In addition to that, we should also have targeted holistic approaches to efficiency and affordability. That is included within weatherization and demand side management programs. So I know we talk a lot about, bill reduction, making sure rates are affordable, which is extremely important. As well as, making sure our homes are weatherized, that we have, no cracks within doors and windows, and that we have energy efficient materials in our home. However, ratepayers shouldn't solely rely on bill and energy efficiency assistance programs. These, like I said, the utilities should be keeping affordability component at the forefront of all of their proceedings. And then finally, we need to include stakeholders like you all within this conversation. We need community leaders, renters, advocates to share their stories because energy burdens is a narrative. All of the bills that we're getting, they're expensive, and to continue pushing for more affordability, we need to have additional voices, additional stakeholders within this conversation.
I just called Ira. I was like, get on shorts. He said, yes.
All right. And then Kara.
Yeah. So that was kind of just like a primer on the PSC and what cases look like. And Sarah, you want to hold questions till the end? Okay. So if folks have questions, jot it down. But now we're going to kind of switch gears and talk about a current case that's in front of the Public Service Commission right now, which might be of interest to you all, especially if you're Louisville based. So Louisville Gas and Electric and Kentucky Utilities in 2024 submitted their integrated resource plan. And so, like Sarah mentioned earlier, integrated resource plans are something that utilities have to do every 3 years. They submit a plan for their next 15 years, called an integrated resource plan or an IRP. And they're really trying to
Mhm.
map out over the next 15 years what
Mm,
they're expecting to happen in terms of
mm,
how much electricity they're going to need to produce,
mhm,
changes in how much electricity they're going to need to produce, and then how they're planning to meet that electricity need. Um, and so what's interesting is that they are required to submit these integrated resource plans. But in Kentucky, unlike other states, the Public Service Commission doesn't actually have the power to approve or deny the integrated resource plan. They just get to react to it, ask questions. They put out a statement about it, but there's really no teeth to this process. But they still are really important because the PSC will look back at the integrated resource plan in future cases and try to hold, the utilities accountable for what they've said they want to do in the plan. And what we've seen sometimes in the past, especially with the previous LG&E KU IRP, is that sometimes utilities are not taking this process seriously. And so our job as public advocates, as interveners, is to really push that our utilities are taking this process seriously and making realistic plans for what's to come, and thinking about our customers and affordability and the types of energy that we want to see coming online over the next 15 years. Because also utilities will tend to self-select, scenarios that look a lot like business as usual, which has meant rising energy costs for all of us. So we have a really important role to play in this integrated resource plan process. And then I'll hand it back to you, Sarah, I think, to talk a little bit about what's in LG&E KU's plan.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Kara. So I like to call this the pregame. Like Kara was stating, there isn't necessarily a final order or decision on IRPs, but it could mean changes in the future with regards to rate, additional power plants, demand side management. Essentially, this is going to affect you, the customer. So as Kara stated, this was filed in October of 2024, and we now have a hearing on May 13th of 2025, which is coming up pretty soon. In the IRP, we found that LG&E and KU plan to retire 2 coal plants, adding about 640 megawatts of natural gas combined cycle plants, and scrapping about 637 megawatts of solar, which was approved last year. To put that in perspective, about 1 megawatt of electricity can power between 400 and 2,000 homes. So these are very, very large plants that are going to generate a lot of electricity to power multiple residential homes. But what the IRP boils down to for us is that they are forecasting a 30 to 45% load growth over the next 15 years. So with that load growth, we are going to have higher usage, and that higher usage may need more power plants to cover that. I know there has been some talk about data centers that may be here in Louisville, and data centers, they use a lot of energy. I believe the data center that would be located in Louisville is expected to use the amount of electricity that the E.W. Brown plant generates by itself, which is a massive amount of energy. So with this 30 to 45% load growth, we're going to need more plants to power this. And if more plants are created, who pays for them? essentially it would be the ratepayer. So our rates are expected to increase. We are looking to an eventual rate case, I think, within the summer of this year, as well as a CPCN, which I mentioned earlier, is when a utility wants to create a new plant. So this is a really big change, about a 45% load increase from where we currently are is massive over the next 15 years. And if this leads to rate increases, we already have high rates. We understand that energy is very expensive right now. And additional rate increases could lead to unaffordability of housing and other essentials. If you are paying more than 6% of your monthly income on energy alone, you are considered energy burdened. And with these high energy costs, your household budget is going to be strained, and there's going to be less disposable income for you to, put towards medicine or food or your rent each month. Um, and it can put a lot of households at risk of being disconnected due to bill debt. And we believe here at MHC that this puts hardworking Kentuckians at risk of negative health outcomes, eviction, and more. So as we stated earlier, as Kara stated earlier, the Metropolitan Housing Coalition, along with other joint interveners, which is Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, Mountain Association, and the Kentucky Solar Energy Society, have jointly intervened through the Kentucky Resources Council on this integrated resource plan on behalf of low and fixed income families. We want to ensure that these rates remain affordable for our customers, and it promotes clean and reliable energy. But there is a way that you can get involved within this process. And I'll pass it back to Kara.
Thanks, Sarah. So the first thing I want to say is that public comments matter. Even in a case like an integrated resource plan, where the Public Service Commission doesn't really have an approval process for the integrated resource plan, as daunting as it may seem, submitting a public comment to the PSC is actually really easy, and you don't need to be an expert to make a big impact. So, like I said earlier, the first thing that came to mind to me when Sarah asked, like, what does a case look like? My first thought was like wonky and technical, right? And so it can be hard to feel like you have something to add to a conversation when the utility is coming with these very technical proposals. And that's where K4ED comes in, because we spend a lot of time interpreting and translating what's in a utility case at the Public Service Commission and boiling it down to what people need to know in order to submit a comment. And like I said, your voice is really going to help shape PSC decisions, and these affect your lives. So, like I mentioned earlier too, like if they don't hear from us, they're only hearing from utilities. They need to hear our side of the story. Public advocacy organizations that are intervening jointly are going to hire experts to make technical comments. So it's not our job as the public to be technical experts. What our job is to share how we're going to be impacted by these decisions and what our vision is for the future. And so your public comment can really just be like, look, if they are anticipating this much increase in electricity and we have to build new expensive natural gas plants to meet that need, like my family cannot afford to pay the price tag on those new power plants. And so really, or whatever your main concern is, worried about, the constituents that you serve if you're at a nonprofit, worried about climate and the impact on the climate, like any of those stories are important for the Public Service Commission to hear. So again, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know the ins and outs and how everything works technically. They just need to hear from people and hear the kind of human side of these proposals. And so there's two ways to do public comment in a case. There's written comments that are accepted throughout the entire time that a case is open. And then there are oral comments that can be made at in-person and virtual hearings. So in terms of written comments, for a lot of cases, the Kentuckians for Energy Democracy website is a great place to go. For all the cases that we're involved in, you can learn about the case and you can submit your comment directly through our website. Um, you can go to our website, you can click on your utility's name, you can read about your current cases, and then you can also get some background information, a summary of what's in the case, and some sample talking points. And in a minute, I think, technology willing, we will navigate to the website and take a look at that together. And you can also submit through the Public Service Commission's website. You can look up cases and get the information for the cases and the case number, and then you can email them directly as well. And we can provide that information for folks for cases that K4ED is not currently working on. Um, and then there's oral comments. And so, sorry, yeah, here it is. So if you want to just send your, comment by email to the Public Service Commission, every comment that's received is added to the public record. And so they upload them periodically to the website with like your contact information blacked out. And so you can see what all of the public comments are that are being submitted in a case as well. And then, like I mentioned, there's also oral comment opportunities at the beginning of a formal hearing, like that May date that's coming up for the Integrated Resource Plan. The beginning of that hearing, there's time for public oral comment that can be in person or virtual. And then sometimes there are actually like comment meetings that are set up outside of that time that are actually done like in the local area in the evening, but that's not done for all cases. Normally, you get just a few minutes for your oral comment, so it's a good idea to practice what you want to say and lead with your most important thoughts. But again, it doesn't have to be something that's scary. It doesn't have to be daunting. It just has to be sharing your opinion, your thoughts, and how you're impacted. And something else to mention about the oral comments is that the PSC will not ask you questions. You will not be like cross-examined or anything like that. You just get to stand up, make your comment, and call it a day. Um, Oh, I love to add this pro tip. I think it's a great idea to bring your kids or your elderly parents into the room with you while you give your comment. You know, the role of public comment is to humanize these issues for the Public Service Commission. And so it's important for the PSC to see the faces of the people whose it's their job to protect. Yeah, and then again, like I said, just a couple minutes for your comment, and you can find more information on our website.
Okay, let's see if this link will work. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I love when technology complies. So this is what our website looks like for the LG&E KU page. You can see at the top here, there's just some background information. What is an integrated resource plan? What's in it? On the sidebar, you can see what we're anticipating coming next from your utility as well. So we are expecting a rate case. We're expecting a CPCN for new generating capacity to be coming up soon. And then you can scroll down a little bit more, Sarah. And then here's just some more information about what's in this case. So you see the background information, just kind of a summary of the integrated resource plan. Keep scrolling. You can just probably scroll slow. Some more information if you want to read more. And then you can always use these buttons that say submit a public comment to jump directly to this form where you can submit your comment directly. Something I'll say is at the bottom of the page, and we'll look at it in just a minute, there are draft talking points, but the PSC really wants to hear from you. They don't want to see copy and pasted talking points. And so while the talking points are there to help you develop your comment if you want to use them, we ask that you please try not to just copy and paste and instead put it into your own words. So down here at the bottom, you can hover over these, and these are our sample talking points. And so there's tons of information here that you can use or not use. And then we tried to also define any of the sort of more wonky terms that we might mention throughout the process. So lots of resources, lots of information. Use it or don't use it. Like I said before, it doesn't have to be, a super well-researched comment for it to matter. What matters is that they hear from you and how you're impacted. Yeah. So is this you, Sarah, or is this me? I lost.
Oh, we can both do it. So there are a couple of things that you can do from here. Obviously, one of those things is submitting a comment to the Public Service Commission, whether that be written or requesting an oral comment. But the first step is to get informed. So check out both of our websites, and we'll put them in the chat for you. You can get a lot more information about certain cases as well as programs that can assist in making your energy more affordable. Even though there are many scary things within, the energy world, and everybody is just trying to figure out how to pay their bills, there is support for those that need it. We also urge you to contact your state representatives and your senators if you really feel strongly about a policy issue, especially contact them if this relates to affordable utilities and housing, because everybody needs to have a place to start and end their day. And we hope that's within a home. Um, Make sure to tell a friend. So for those of you on the call today, maybe if you're talking to a friend on the phone or you're going for a walk with your mom later or something, just tell them about what you learned and how they can get involved, because our voice is the most important part in getting the Public Service Commission to see the human side of the story. Also, of course, if you would like, you can always join our coalition. You can donate to Metropolitan Housing Coalition's work and K4ED's work, as we do a lot of public education surrounding this, and we also jointly intervene on cases that are related to energy affordability and housing affordability. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. We are a resource. We have plenty of research and information. So if there's something that you're thinking about and you want to ask us, feel free to send us an email or go to our websites and submit a call form. But let me stop sharing here and we can get into the Q&A.